I didn't leave because I was certain something was wrong. I left because I couldn't prove that nothing was. For weeks, the house had felt like it was holding its breath around me. Drawers closed a little too quickly when I entered. My wife's phone screen tilted away on instinct, not secrecy, instinct. Conversations paused mid-sentence and resumed in softer tones. If I asked what I missed, I was told, nothing important. The word nothing began to echo. I tested myself first. I checked my temper, my workload, my sleep. I told myself I was projecting stress onto harmless things. I even apologized once for being distant, and she hugged me with such warmth that I felt ashamed of my suspicion. But warmth can be technique. So I told her I was visiting my sister for a few days. I packed deliberately, left toiletries behind, made the performance believable. She seemed supportive, too supportive. She didn't ask how long I'd be gone. She didn't suggest driving me. That smoothness lodged in my throat. I didn't go to my sister's house. I rented a small room above a shuttered bakery 2 streets away. From its side window, I could see the corner of my own roof and the narrow side gate that led to the basement entrance. I told myself I would stay one night, just to quiet the noise in my head. Watching your own home from a distance does something to you. It shrinks. It becomes a structure instead of a life. The first evening passed without incident. Lights turned on and off at ordinary times. The television flickered blue in the living room. Around 10, a car I didn't recognize stopped briefly near the gate. No one got out. It drove away. I nearly convinced myself to go back inside my own house and apologize for doubting her. That was when Mr. Karim appeared. He lived next door. A widower who moved slowly but missed nothing. He tended his front garden every evening as if the roses were a responsibility he owed someone. I hadn't noticed him approach the bakery steps. I only felt the weight of a hand on my shoulder. "You picked a poor place to hide," he said quietly, not unkindly. I stiffened. I hadn't told anyone. He looked at my house, not at me. "I wondered when you'd notice." Notice what? The question stayed inside me. I didn't trust my voice. He must have sensed the storm under my stillness because he added, softer now, "Wait until midnight. You will see everything." He didn't elaborate. He returned to his roses. Midnight became a verdict. The hours crawled. I argued with myself in cycles. If nothing happened, I would have to confront my own suspicion. If something did happen, I would have to confront something worse. At 11:45, the house went dark earlier than usual. At 11:58, the basement light flicked on. No one used the basement. It was unfinished, used mostly for storage. I felt my pulse in my ears. At exactly midnight, 2 figures slipped through the side gate. They had a key. They moved with familiarity, not caution. One was my brother-in-law. The other, my wife's cousin, who had helped us organize our paperwork 2 months ago when we refinanced the house. They carried flat boxes, banker's boxes. I leaned forward against the window glass. They went straight to the basement. 10 minutes later, they came up with a metal lockbox I had not seen before. My wife opened the back door for them. She wasn't surprised. She was coordinating. My breath thinned. They spread papers on the small patio table beneath the security light. I recognized the blue folder we kept for property documents. I recognized my own name printed across the top pages. One of them signed something. My wife watched. I did not feel rage. I felt a strange, clinical clarity. This was not an affair. It was administrative, deliberate, structured. Then I noticed something else. Across the street, Mr. Karim was no longer in his garden. He stood beside his gate, phone raised, not secretly, but openly. Within minutes, headlights washed over the front of my house. Police. No sirens, just presence. The car stopped. 2 officers stepped out, calm, unhurried. My wife froze first, then the men. The officer nearest the patio asked a simple question. "Can we see the documents?" No shouting, no accusations, just procedure. Mr. Karim approached and explained, evenly, That over the past month he had observed late-night document transfers through the side entrance while I was supposedly away on business trips. He had installed a street-facing camera after a package theft last year. He offered the footage. The second officer asked who owned the property. My wife answered automatically, "We both do." The officer glanced at the paperwork. "Interesting. These signatures don't match the ID we have on file." Silence. I walked down the street then. Slowly. No rush. They saw me before I spoke. My wife's face shifted not to guilt, to recalculation. "You weren't supposed to," she began, then stopped. I said nothing. The officers separated them. Questions became more specific. Dates. Notaries. Transfer attempts. The cousin's voice trembled first. My brother-in-law tried to sound indignant but lacked details. The documents were not yet finalized. They had planned to initiate a transfer while I was away, leveraging a power of attorney draft I had never approved. It unraveled without drama. One officer looked at me directly. "Sir, we recommend you accompany us tomorrow to file a formal fraud report. Tonight, we'll take statements and secure these documents." Control shifted not because I yelled or exposed them, but because I had waited. By 2 in the morning, the boxes were in the trunk of a police car. My wife stood by the door, arms folded around herself, not from cold. "You spied on me," she said quietly when the officers stepped aside. "No," I answered. "I listened." That was the only thing I said to her. When the street emptied, Mr. Kareem met my eyes from his gate. He didn't smile. He nodded once as if confirming a hypothesis. Dawn arrived slowly. I walked back into my house as the sky lightened from gray to pale blue. Nothing inside had changed physically. The couch was where we left it. The coffee mugs were clean. The hallway smelled faintly of detergent. But the air had shifted. Trust doesn't explode. It evaporates. I stood in the doorway of the basement, looking at the empty space where the lockbox had been. I tried to trace the weeks backward, the small hesitations, the overly smooth reassurances, the way she had encouraged me to travel more often. My intuition had whispered. I had almost silenced it. There was no satisfaction in being right, only steadiness. Later that morning, I would sit in a police station and sign papers that were actually mine. An investigation would begin. Lawyers would speak in measured tones. The structure of my life would rearrange itself in quiet, official ways. But in that early light, alone in my own house, the only thing I felt was a thin, durable line of trust. Not in her, not in anyone else, but in myself. The house no longer felt warm, felt honest. And that was enough.